my name is Kat and I'm a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom, and this is my little space on the internet that I have documented my knitting journey from day one through to now, and have been very grateful enough to build and feel like I'm part of a community, which is the main reason, to be honest, that I started podcasting, video casting, whatever you want to call it. So it might be worth, if you don't have a beverage, grabbing one. This might be a slightly longer video today, and maybe some knitting, some sewing, whatever it is that you enjoy. So thank you for being here today. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new, this is a slightly different episode versus normal. So today what I want to do is talk about my second year garments. So everything that I knitted in my first year that was a proper jumper or cardigan, I popped into a video which I'll try and link down in the doodly-doo box thing. So what I wanted to do is repeat that, but with my second year, and I feel like it will be quite interesting personally because I'll have something to reflect on and have a moment to reflect, while also hopefully inspiring you to try new techniques, try new patterns, maybe inspire you to try a different yarn. Hopefully I can explain some of the hurdles that I went through, or ones or garments that were particularly easy. So hopefully it will be a little bit fun, but informative without being too in-depth. That's what we're going for, hopefully. So up front, just in case you're interested, today I am drinking a lovely coffee from Hannah. If you're watching, I think she's called Creative Yarniki. I should check that. I'll pop her Instagram here because she does dye the most gorgeous yarn. But her family have a coffee company, and this is a Rwandan coffee that I have aeropressed in the inversion method if you're into coffee. If not, you can do the Googles and learn if you would be interested. It's a nice way to have coffee if you're having filter. Now luckily I've only just started this, so in 25 minutes or so I might start to be a bit more lively than I am now, because filter coffee really energizes me in a way that espresso or anything else does, and that is because it's in longer contact with the coffee generally. But I won't talk too much on that. Before we talk about garments that I knitted within that time period, so that would be September 2019 through to now, this is my soiree, which is a pattern by Emily Foden, and I knitted this the year before, so this doesn't get included, but I really like this jumper, especially now it's started to get a bit cooler. It was knitted using Coop Knit Sock in the melon type base, I believe, colourway, I believe, and the mohair that I held with it is gorgeous. It's by Spectrum Fibre and it's the colourway Smoke. But as you can see, mine is a much more fitted version. That is because I went down a couple of needle sizes, I believe, because I actually purchased a sock base as opposed to the slightly thicker DK base, which I think the pattern calls for. Don't hold me to that, but that is how I got this much more fitted garment, which I'm really happy with. So anyway, Soiree by Emily Foden in the Knits About Winter book, which is a super beautiful book from start to finish. I do recommend it. Anyway, so where do we start? I think the first one was cast on just before I went to Oslo, which is the first time I've been to Norway, and as you can imagine I was super excited to go, and I needed to have a project or two because I was working at a yarn festival. It was amazing. There is a video, so I'll try and link that as well, even though I might have way too many things to link here, but I will do my best. So I found a colourway, and actually I've got a couple of these coming up, a Tune Fibre colourway that I put my phone on silent. I don't want to use the phrase, but I actually really liked. and this is now called Norris, and this is my Magnolia Chunky by Camilla Vad, and it was knitted using a super soft sock, I believe. Yeah, looking at it, I don't think it's DK. Maybe it is DK. It was a super soft base and 2 strands of mohair. So it's a really warm piece, but because it's knitted on such big needles, it is still quite loose and airy. And because of the superwash content, it has grown quite massively. The pattern itself is really easy to work from. Camilla writes very clear patterns. And it did knit up really quickly. I think I had this done by the time we were back, so maybe 10 days at max. I also did the short version because I guessed that this was going to grow. And by goodness it has. This is the short version, and on me I'm not very tall. I think I'm 5'4" for reference. So I'm pretty small. And this comes to sort of not quite, but almost my mid-thigh now. I think. So it really has grown, because when I first finished it, it was, I don't know, just below my hip bone maybe. But it was a really nice pattern. I did enjoy doing the bobbles, but the bobbles didn't, they didn't bobble, they just stuck. And if I remember rightly, Ellie of Skein Knits, which you probably know, I think most people know Ellie, she did a clever little thing where she pulled out the yarn and gave it a twist and wrapped it back around the bobble. That makes it a lot more sense if you're knitting it, but I did that, and now they pop quite a bit, apart from it's sort of felted, where I am a bit harsh on my knitting. I do like to wear them, well, I just like to use them. I think it's a real shame if we were to knit things and never use them. So yeah, overall really enjoyed this, but it's not held up quite like I imagined. And that's, you know, you do live and learn. But I do think that's probably a superwash. I would actually be really interested in doing this in a thicker natural wool in the future. As and when, I definitely don't need it until this one's on its very last legs. But yeah, fun pattern, and I do really like that colour even now. And then next, this one was also cast on while we were in Norway, and actually this one, I think I started on the plane and then finished on the plane. This one was the Varpu, which I cannot remember, but it'll be on the screen. It was by designer, but I cast it on a much smaller needle, which meant that I had to do a little bit of playing. I knew that I wanted something, again, a bit smaller. I'm really not very big, and often the smaller sizes that are oversized would probably drown me. So I'm happy to be playful, I'm happy to rip back. So I cast on using double thread of Suri alpaca, which this at the time was an exclusive, mostly to Ching Fibre. That's now changed. And this was just, I lovingly called this Grapple. This was a colourway that kind of didn't come out how it was meant to, so I was lucky enough to get a few skeins, and I really love how this came out. But this was the Varpu. I cast on smaller needles, I worked the shoulders as suggested, then joined and finished the body quite short, as long as I wanted. I did the sleeves straight and then did some increases and some quick decreases to give it a bell sleeve, and it's come out a lovely crop top, which I wore and wear really a lot. I'm surprised how much I've worn this. It grew a little bit, and it has seen better days maybe, but I really get a lot of wear from this one. And the pattern itself is it is a lovely pattern, and I would like again to knit this one properly. I love the green that was used in the pattern, and it was a slightly different construction for me, I think, at the time. Yeah, because you pick up on the shoulders, work back and work forward, so you're knitting flat for the first bit, which I think is a slightly older method, as in not really old, but it's a slightly more, well, I think that the fact that it has a slightly sturdier shoulder is quite nice, is what I'm trying to say. I've grown to really appreciate a seam in a garment, which is not something that I thought I would say, but I really do. And yeah, not much to describe on this one, but a lovely jumper nevertheless. And this one I was really pleased with at the time. So I cast on yet again for a yarn show. I knew that I needed something that I could work on without having to think, and I really liked the pattern. So it's the Sunday Cardigan by Petite Knits. I knew that Petite Knits patterns, what I'd heard, that Petite Knit patterns were fairly clear, quite straightforward and simple in design, so I thought, perfect pattern, and it was. Again, I picked up a club colourway by Favo, which is now a permanent, it's been slightly adjusted, but it's now permanent colourway, called Blood Moon, which again at the time I really liked. I still like it now, it's fine. I knit the smallest size. I think I went down a needle size again because I was quite concerned that even then it would be a bit big on me. And it was knit using 3 strands of mohair. There is some pooling, which is actually coming up more clear on here than in real life, but there is some pooling here. But the shape hasn't held up over time. Again, what can you really expect? I did think that because it had the mohair had the silk, it would be a bit sturdier, but it's really lost its shape. But that doesn't mean that I don't wear it around the house. I haven't worn it for a good few months, since before March, and that's probably because it has been quite warm. But it might see some more wear now. Again, I'm quite harsh on knitting. I say this all the time, but I really am quite happy to wear these all occasions, because otherwise it would be a shame, but it is definitely pilling and doing some odd things. The neckline especially, and the front, I won't put it on now. I will put it on now, but it I don't know, it's just lost its shape and it's a bit of a shame, but it is a well written pattern, it's quite clear, and I was able to knit it whilst working and serving and on the go, so it is very clear, clearly. But yeah, that's one that I'm happy with, but is adjusted and maybe doesn't quite fit my needs now. So this pattern, this was my Christmas jumper last year, which I'm really happy with, and I ended up knitting the pattern 4 times. I only have the one garment in my possession because this was my Christmas jumper, and I knit 3 of them for gifts. I knitted exactly the same but in a larger size and in cotton for my mum. So I used Drops Paris. I knitted my sister a blue one with snowflakes on that I designed. Again, I thought that was really cute. I did the princess sleeves for my mum and my sister. And my sister's was in the same yarn as mine, which is Drops Alaska. The third one I did was for my friend Beth, and she is... I love Beth. She has stayed true and wears basically black all the time. She's kept her little goth heart forever, and I love her for it. So she has a black one with grey skulls and a little bit of colour work around it. And again, that was knitted in Drops Alaska. And this is the Judy Lodge sweater, which Poison Girl knits some of my favourite patterns for sure, and this one has got to be up there. I love this jumper, I love how it turned out. It was really quite quick because of the gauge. I mean, Drops Alaska's sort of Aran worsted, DK, I think it's Aran technically. And it has this cute buttonhole at the back, so it's got a little keyhole and it fits beautifully. I think Amy has one of my favourite writing styles because she doesn't only include very good schematics and very clear instructions, she includes options for waist shaping, not waist shaping, how to adjust sizes if your upper arms don't match the bust size, etc. She's fantastic, and I can imagine myself knitting an all grey version of this or an all black version of this, which I would wear basically like, you know, like a sweatshirt jumper, you know, because I do really love it, and I think it's really it's just lovely. I could gush about this a lot. Amy's construction was actually very similar to the Vapu in that you start here, come down, back and forth, and then connect to join the round for the body. Yeah, this comes with quite a few options, like I said, the princess sleeves which poof a bit, and I will try and insert pictures, but I don't think I've even got a picture of my mum's jumper. But I promise you, last year was the year of the Christmas garment, and I actually don't have it here, and that would be included in this little segment really. I also knitted my dad a Christmas jumper, so I basically knitted my entire immediate family Christmas jumpers, and he had a Drops Alaska one again. I had a big Christmas tree on the front, and the idea is that each Christmas he can decorate it with little decorations if he wants to, or have a really plain. It was navy blue with just brown, a green tree and a brown base. So it was very simple, and oh, I did have some snow, and it had a bit of snow all around it, and cream sleeves and collar to match, I think. I'm sure. So we all had Christmas jumpers. I didn't think the Judy Lodge sweater would be my dad's vibe. He's a pretty happy to wear things, but I don't know that he'd have appreciated it. But yeah, really, these bobbles popped. I've got to say, Amy's method of bobbles seemed to pop, and I didn't have to do the doodly twist method. So yeah, I could gush about this for hours because it is gorgeous, but if you're looking for a Christmas jumper this year, or like I said, it would look gorgeous plain, that is a good one. That is a really good one, I think. The next one that I don't have with me, and I don't have a few because I did gift quite a few last year, was for my boss, stepbrother type, spare dad character, Elliot. Hi Elliot, you're never going to watch this, but I knitted it for his son, Flynn, and it was very similar to the jumper I did for Beth. So it had the same skulls around the top, and I used the Strange Brew book for pattern. The Strange Brew book I have actually just here, but I won't pull it out. Is fantastic if you're the sort of person that quite likes very simple basics, but you want to be able to put your own chart in or your own twist. So it gives you garments of all sizes near enough, accessories all sizes for different weights, so that it's essentially a recipe, so you can add in your own charts or knit them plain. It's a very cool book. I think I prefer things with a bit more shaping, and some of the patterns might incorporate that. I just haven't ever been around to knitting them, so it is a very cool book. But anyway, yeah, that was Drops Nepal, and it had skulls, and it was very cute. I think I can put a picture, and that's as good as I can do, I'm afraid, but I like to document and I like to talk about this just because Strange Brew is a great book. I've knitted Alex also a jumper, but that was in the first year video from that. And I can actually see it there. He's actually been wearing it, which is really exciting. Anyway, another one that I don't have with me, and I wish I got a bit of more footage, but it's The Ramblin' Woman by Caitlin Hunter. And that was a project that took me, I think, a year to complete. So it's probably the longest project that I've had. Without going too into it, I really struggled with my health big time in the last 2.5 years, so hence the knitting. But it really took a lot of mental energy. I'm not sure why, because Caitlin Hunter's a very simple, clear patterns charted, but just trying to keep up with the pattern was just really hard for me. Yeah, it was a lot of work, and I really loved doing it when I first picked it up and when I got close to finishing it, but the in-between for some reason was a big struggle. And again, that's not to do with Caitlin, that was to do with my own health. But I did get to knit it in one of my favourite yarns, which is West Yorkshire Spinners Jacob. Now, don't ask me particularly why, but I feel a deep connection to it. I'm really not sure. I love the smell. It's very, very sheepy, and I have done quite a few projects in this. I also used Croft for some contrast colours. I didn't want it to entirely be grey and neutrals, just because I know that Monica does like a little bit of light blue and light purple, and it came out really well. It was the first time I ever did a steek, which, to be honest, after spending a year on it, I can't tell you how anxious I was. However, after the first few cuts, all anxiety and fear dissipated. It was fine. And if you're hesitant on steeking, I really recommend trying it. I know that there's a lot of beautiful patterns, especially there seems to be a wave of patterns being released with steeks in. And if you are nervous, maybe try something else, maybe try something small or even a swatch, because it really is very simple, and there are so many great tutorials on guiding you through the process if you need them. And I think even the Rambling Woman had a great link, but very, very fun pattern in the end, and I would love to knit it again, but I am going to, and I say this not because I don't want to support, because I really do, but I would like to start knitting slightly less known designer patterns. And that's not because I think anyone else should, but I've knitted a lot of people like Caitlin's patterns now, and I just need to step away from it. And I just would like to try a few more techniques, and I found that other than the steeking in this, I've not learnt many new techniques through those patterns yet. And I'm sure I will, and I'm sure there are, and I don't mean this to sound negative, but I just want to keep learning and growing as a knitter, so I want to step away from that. Which does sort of bring me on to my next one. And surprise, surprise, it's knit in Jacob DK by West Yorkshire Spinners. And this was a test knit for Rachel of Unwind Knitwear, which, if you don't know Rachel, she is doing amazingly well and sending out gorgeous patterns into the universe. And with every pattern I've knitted from Rachel, I have learnt something, even if she's released a Art Nouveau top with a chevron pattern down the shoulder, and it's beautiful. It really is. And even that reminded me that I needed to be a little bit more focused when doing texture patterns on black yarn. But this pattern was knitted from side to side, which I'd never done, and with a big steek. So I'd gone from steek project to steek project in the same yarn, but this was so different. And I do wear this one, and I will wear this one a lot. I wore it a lot last year. So I'm going to show you the back, not because I don't want to show you the front, but because to show the colours a bit better. So there's the light grey Jacob, the medium grey Jacob, and the black brown, I believe it's called. And how you knit this from memory is you start the sleeve, and you work in the round all the way up towards the body. You 3-needle bind off the back, so get kind of a seam, but it's a completely invisible seam, and then you steek the bottom, and the bottom has this gorgeous shaping. I'll try to lift it up, and I will be inserting footage of wearing these, I'm sure. And it is gorgeous. It's a big, snuggly, oversized garment in wool that I truly love, that has really held up. I mean, I'm impressed. This is not, it's not like, well, it is, it's very affordable yarn. It's about £6, £6.50 a skein for 100 grams. And I found it to be incredibly robust. For me, it's fine against skin. I love the colour, but there's a lot of really cool versions of this. There's some quite playful ones, and there's a really pretty one. I can't remember who knitted it, but it's in sort of a red burgundy colour, and it's gorgeous. So I think this pattern itself has a lot of room for fun, as well as simple and kind of rusticy like I've knitted it. Like I said, it was a slightly different construction, but I have to give a big mention of thanks to Rachel. The way she writes patterns is very clear, and she puts in a lot of information. I wouldn't say she goes and puts in too much information so it's unreadable, but she does put notes in throughout that are really handy to refer back to. I really enjoyed that as a test knit, and that would be one that I would be glad to knit again. I have no reason to, because it's really held up. But yeah, I'm just going to hit pause because I've been talking for a bit long. I've just noticed little Audrey has been in the back there the entire time. She does love that thing. She really, really does. If you're new, Audrey is my little in-house almost mascot. She is a very affectionate kitten that is my shadow generally, and she has a sofa that I crocheted for her out of really trashy yarn because I didn't think she'd use it, and she loves it. So next really was another test knit. Actually, we've gone into a bit of a test knit phase, and I'm going to assume that everyone knows Fibre Tales because she has a gorgeous aesthetic, gorgeous YouTube, gorgeous designs, and a gorgeous soul, I believe. I think she's lovely. But anyway, I tested the Favo jumper for her, and it's got cable design along the front, honeycomb brioche sleeves, seams, cables, and it's a really fun knit. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the amount of concentration it required. Now, I'm not saying it was completely impossible to knit while having a chat with people, because I think I did a couple of times, but I would say it takes some focus. This is knit flat. The front two pieces, the front and the back, were knit separately, flat. And in fact, are these? No. And then you pick up for the sleeves, but it's drop shoulder, so the sleeves knitted up really quickly. This was a fun pattern to do, like I said. I was almost tempted to do the cable on the front and the back, but I didn't because it was a test knit, and it used Snelden 3-ply. I hope I'm saying that right. And I used Drops mohair as my mohair for it. Yeah. Again, I'm really happy with how this came out. This did see quite a bit of wear when I finished it, but like I said, with a lot of these, quite a few of these haven't seen too much wear because it has been warmer recently. But this had some cool new techniques to me in this big braid along the front. So you knit it I won't surprise how to do it, but it was really fun to do. And yeah, it was a test knit. There was no issues with it. She writes absolutely gorgeous patterns, and I would recommend it as a garment should you want something a little bit more challenging and warm. That is an incredibly warm item. In hindsight, I maybe should have added more length to the body. You can knit it as long as you like. I think that's written in pattern, but I just knit to exactly the size that was recommended. But I would have knit it a little bit longer. But it will be perfect over dresses and leggings and things like that in the winter. And it's definitely big enough that if I want a few layers underneath it, I probably could. Talk about these two together. So this, I didn't know what to call it, but I've just affectionately called it Scrappy Brioche, and that's what it is. I just wanted a cardigan that I could throw on over dresses, over my linen trousers, and it goes perfectly, and I wanted a project that I could use up all of my scraps. Now, this is not a pattern, but I'm just showing you that you really can turn anything into something. These were all scraps that I had from other projects, previous projects. This is smoke from this jumper. This was the leftover. This was from my black cherry that I did. This was from a hat that I knitted. Like this mohair at the top, this cream yolk mohair, I've had for over 10 years, from when I was crocheting quite a lot. So really like this jumper, to the point where cardigan, I knitted it a second time. The front of this one has been pulled down a little bit. I haven't actually blocked this since I finished it. That's just not been a thing, but I might actually do so. I've been hanging it up to dry because I'm a naughty person. So next time I wash it, I'm going to give it a little block and see if I can even it out a bit. But this one was my own one-of-a-kind colourway for me because I just wanted something a bit dirty green and grey and mustard, and I really like it. But I'm sure there are patterns out there, brioche cardigan patterns out there, should you be inspired to knit one. And I do recommend doing this. This was a lot of fun, and I'm surprised at how much I've worn this, because you might guess by the amount of grey. I do wear colour, I'm happy to wear colour, but I'm a little bit choosy, I don't know. Is that the right phrase? But this one surprisingly gets quite a bit of wear. So there's that. I'm gonna have to admit, I also am not precious about weaving in all my ends. So this one, you might see a few ends. This was another test knit, and again, you might know, Bad Wolf Girl Knits. She produces a lot of colourwork patterns, very fun. I know she's working on a unicorn jumper at the moment, which seems to be getting a lot of love, rightfully so. It's got unicorns on it. But this was the House Sweater, I believe? House Pride Sweater. And this is my Hufflepuff jumper. I really enjoyed working on this, not just because it was colourwork, and I really do enjoy colourwork, and it didn't have too long of floats or anything like that. But there was the freedom of choosing charts. Now, the Hufflepuff comes with a set chart that you could do the entire thing. From memory, I think this section had paw prints, and I wasn't feeling it, and that's fine, and that's the idea. And we were sent through all of the charts for all of the jumpers, so we could have completely mixed and matched. If you're part Ravenclaw and part Hufflepuff, or part Slytherin and Gryffindor, you could adjust it. I think I added this into the sleeve. This wasn't part of it, but I just really loved the gold colour. So I had to include a bit more. The gold was actually yarn that I dyed myself with tea and turmeric, which honestly, it makes me so happy. I think it came out absolutely beautifully. The rest was knitted in drops Nepal. Yeah, definitely drops Nepal. And I'm really happy with it. I've not worn it too much. I opted for a shorter sleeve, and it actually has given me a really 1940s vibe, which I think is quite cool, and I would love to do a little dress up in sort of 1940s Hufflepuff, which maybe I should do for Halloween this year, given that we're probably not going anywhere, and I don't normally do Halloween. I think the last time I did Halloween I dressed up like Mary Poppins, which isn't that terrifying, let's face it. But yeah, really good test knit to do. There was a lovely Instagram group that was very active. It was everyone was quite quick to get a response if there was a question. Yeah, a fun pattern if you have any Harry Potter lovers in your life or yourself. It would make a great gift, and the gorgeous charts would make great hats and things too. So yeah, really do like this project, even though I've barely worn it. Now, oh, we're on to this again. So the year before, I knitted a sugar plum sweater by Favo Knits, or Fable Knitwear, and I love her patterns. I do think they're beautiful. More often than not, they are bottom up, which is a little bit of a curveball for many, I want to say modern knitters, but I think you understand what I mean. We're quite used to top down, where we can try them on as we go. And it made me a little bit anxious, so I did actually, and I'll share this one quickly first. So I casted one on bottom up, and it was really nice. It was a bit snug in the arm area, and that was because I admitted I'd completely ignored some of the numbers and messed up slightly, but it felted. I really liked this yarn. It was Juniper Moon from Stratus, I believe, in the black colour, and it's really felted. So if there's any little people, like people with daughters or out there that think this might fit, I'm guessing it'd probably fit about an 8-year-old. But I would quite like to pass this on because it definitely doesn't fit me comfortably anymore. It's a bit denser now. It's definitely felted. But anyway, I am a bit sad because I really wanted a black turtleneck in my life. So I knitted it again, and to be honest, I thought I would really like this colour. It's not for me, and again, maybe this is one I pass on if anyone is interested. It always seems a shame when you do work, and I maybe should have stopped. But anyway, this is the Sugar Plum, again, a spring version. I did quite like it initially, but I actually haven't worn it. So yeah, gorgeous pattern, very well written, very clear. Quite simple sizing. I know that she is actively asking for test knitters in larger sizes, and those people will be gifted the pattern for free if they want to knit it. But this is Snow Cone, I believe, which was a club colourway by Jean Fiver on a merino Aran base. I don't know, someone will love it. It's not speaking to me. Yeah. But anyway, not much to say on this other than it was a very simple pattern to knit. It is bottom up, so if I wouldn't question it, swatch, get a gauge, knit it exactly as directed, and you will have a lovely time knitting it. And again, I think folded collar was written as an option. No, it wasn't, but I did a folded brim. So I just knit it double the length I wanted and picked up stitches. on the first round of the ribbing, which is cute, but not for me. I am more of a turtleneck person in this style jumper, I think, but not in this colourway, sadly. Maybe I could over dye it, but that does seem a bit morally wrong. And okay, maybe I should have got my little heater. I do have a cup heater from probably a decade ago from Father Christmas. In our stockings, me and my sister got one of, it's like a little ceramic heat pad that plugs into your computer, and it was perfect while I was at university, and I used it at many jobs. I think I should have used that today because I'm talking more than I had anticipated, but I do hope this is useful, and I will very soon record a video on how my first year knits have held up, more so than just the shrunken one that I would love to pass on to someone. So, oh, actually it's this one. This is a jumper that I really love. This was one that I designed for myself and will get around to writing up to share, and it uses a similar cable pattern as a pattern that I've just released, which is the Spiritual Guardian cow. Now, it's called this, sort of inspired by a Dungeons and Dragons spell, because this sort of fabric, so this is knitted using merino singles and mohair. The main colourway is Daydreamer by Biff Sugar Yarns, and the mohair is my Moonchild colourway, which I really love. But I feel like mohair and a yarn is like protection from the elements, so that's why I use that as the name for this. But it's quite a simple jumper, really. I really like the shape. It's got a rolled hem, well, rolled hems and an I-cord bind off for the sleeves that just sit really nicely. But I will write this one up. It will be a very simple pattern, quite easy and beginner friendly, aside from the cables, which again I do believe as a new knitter they're definitely doable. They're very simple, and I think just knowing that you're knitting the stitches in a different order to what we're used to, you can use a cable needle, you don't need to use a cable needle, and knowing that you have options and there are ways to play with it and playing with it is really important, because for me personally, I've tried without a cable needle, but I prefer it with and find it quicker, whereas many people would be the opposite. So I just think we have to remember to be playful. But this is a basic yoke sweater, and I'm very happy with it. I used, for the first round, let's see if I can get it in focus, hide my face, I used yarn overs, just because I wanted a little decorative increase, but I would probably omit that for a pattern, but you definitely have the option to include it. But yeah, really liked this garment. This did see quite a bit of wear. I have weeks where I will only wear grey and black, and then I'll have a few days where I wear pastels and lilac, and this fits the bill when I'm doing that. I think this is no, there's two more test knits, including this one. This was one that I did really enjoy, and I didn't really learn anything, but it was nice to knit, not being mean, it was nice to knit a Caitlin Hunter pattern that didn't feel like it was the same. I hope that makes sense and doesn't sound harsh. But this is the Gloam cardigan, and this is one that I do really like. This is Ching Fibre, super soft DK in the Sunflower Maze colourway. There was a bit of pooling, so I had to do a bit of majigging. So I'd pull out bits or break it off and start knitting from the opposite end. Knowing that I was seaming it, it was fine. I could weave in the ends, and I was quite happy to do so. And it has a really nice texture, which meant that it knitted up really quickly because it was quite a moorish texture. So you knit the front 2 bits separately and the back separately, seam them together and then pick up stitches and knit the sleeves in the round. And I would love to knit a version of this in grey. I mean, probably Jacob DK, should this one get used a lot and be so worn out that I would like to knit a second one, then that's probably what I would do. Yeah, it was a very smooth sailing knit, a really enjoyable thing to work on. If you are looking to do some seaming and get used to that technique, this is quite a nice one to do so because you've got the shoulders and the sides. And I've got to say, I'm definitely a convert. I did really enjoy doing mattress seaming, and there are lots of very good tutorials, in particular the Very Pink Knits, which is a channel that I think anyone that knits probably is referred to numerous times. So it's very useful pattern, useful for this pattern to refer back to. But yeah, this I finished just as my lockdown sort of came into place, and I have worn this quite a bit around the house. And it actually, I mean, it's pilling a little bit already, which I anticipated, but not as much as I did anticipate. So that's quite nice, really. Yeah, not too much on that one. This one, however, I could really gush about, and I've got to stop saying that word. I could talk a lot about, and Dani Mager, who is Dani Knits Things, and it might be because of how much I enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons, and when it was called Elfmail, I was completely sold. But this is Elfmail by Dani Knits Things, and it is gorgeous. I believe I got gauge, I actually swatched about 15 times, mostly in greys and purples, only to come back on myself totally and pick out these two colours. The gold colour is my sunshine type colourway on a yak base, and the brown, green, blue, mustard one is Ford, which, if you know Critical Role, that is where that name comes from. And as soon as I swatched, I was grateful that I got gauge using recommended needle size. I just knew it had to be knitted up, and it flew off my needles because it's not as complicated as it looks, and I thought that was amazing. So this I actually was knitting through knit nights while talking to Alex. It was very easy to memorise, and I even love, and this again very easy to do, this slip stitch increase. Really pretty. The only thing that I would change, and this is just personal preference, is I might be inclined to work the short rows in pattern as opposed to just with the main colour or the contrast colour. Bear with me just a second. I really don't want to waste my coffee. It will be fine cold, but it's really nice while it's still tepid. I did the second size, and I would gladly knit this again. If you have fingering weight skeins, and this doesn't apply to every single size, but most sizes from memory, especially if you had a sort of a yak base where you get a slightly larger quantity, like 480 meters, you could do a short sleeved version of this. I actually use less than a skein of each of these for this size and this version, so you can get a lot out of just two single skeins. You know what I'm trying to say. You know those beautiful odd skeins that you purchase and you're like, well, I don't really just want to turn it into socks. This is quite a good pattern. And also what I think it would be really cool is to use one main colour and then again use scraps. I think this really lends itself to that because you could do a gorgeous fade that would almost look like a spin cycle yarn put through it. I really love this jumper. Dani did she's only released a few, I think 2 or 3 jumpers so far. And they are gorgeous, but this one is particularly stunning. I think she's done such a great job. Dani, if you ever see this, you are amazing, and keep designing, because I want to knit all the things. Yeah, really lovely pattern. Dani is a very clever lady. Wow. We've not got too many left, but I'm actually surprised because recently I haven't knit many. I've got one very recent garment, the rest are all a few months old. This, I love it when I do this, and I feel like if you're a knitter, you've probably done this, and if you're a new knitter, I highly recommend doing it. When you have garments that you wear that haven't been made by you, oh, hey honey, and you get a lot of wear from them and they just need replacing, but you know that you're not going to be able to purchase the same one, be it vintage, be it from a charity shop, be it fast fashion, and they don't make it anymore. So I had a cardigan from when I was 12 years old. My father bought it from Zara, I think, and I lost my mind because it was gorgeous. It was very plain, very, very plain. Brown buttons down the front, almost V-neck, very simple cardigan. That started to really wear, and I found a gap one that had a mohair edge to it. I loved mohair before I knew that I could knit it myself. And it was a gap one, and it had cables on it. And again, I shrunk that one. Well, I didn't shrink it, it was a family member. But anyway, it needed replacing again. And I had spent a while keeping my eye out for a new red cardigan from a charity shop, and I couldn't find one. And I actually purchased this yarn a year before I finally knit it, and I don't know why I hesitated at all, because I really love this cardigan. And this is the Blondie cardigan by Amy Appel of Poison Girl Knits, yet again. This colour, not my traditional red, but I wear 2 reds quite often, and that is this cool red and then quite just a cool, very red. This goes with so many of my dresses that I haven't been wearing particularly. It goes with all of my linen trousers, it goes with my plaid version of these linen trousers. They're awesome, by the way. And it came out beautifully. I haven't put buttons on it, and the pattern does include a button band, which I have knitted. It's on there. I've got buttonholes and room for my buttons. I just haven't found the perfect buttons yet, and that's fine because the way it sits is nice enough without them. I wore this on my birthday this year. I was getting a bit older. It was triple decades. The only thing I adjusted on this pattern, I believe, was the texture on the front. I added a twisted stitch instead of, I believe it's a pearl stitch in pattern. I can't remember, but it's beautiful. I just was feeling a bit fancy and creative and made that adjustment. I also think what I did was I cast on for the second size, but worked it mostly for the first size. And that is because Amy allows you to, with her great information. The colourway is Raven Red by Beehive Yarns. I believe the Barbarella base for the fingering weight yarn and Patty for the mohair. Gorgeous yarn, gorgeous colour. The depth is amazing. Hold it a bit closer once more. Yeah, beautiful. very happy with this, and I'm quite excited that again it's cool enough to start wearing my mohair protection. I can't believe I'm managing to talk this much, but oh, she's so sweet. But I do hope that this is useful and a bit inspiring. Trying different yarns, seeing how they keep, etc. Have to bring my box a little bit closer so that I can reach them. This was my final test knit of my second year of knitting, and I'm really pleasantly surprised how this came out, and that's not any other reason than I let Alex pick the colours. Alex is my husband, and he has a really good eye for anything basically. I am creative, but sometimes struggle to step outside my comfort zone, even though here is actually quite an array of things that are outside my comfort zone colour wise. This is the, I can never remember how to pronounce it, Celosias, it's not right, Jennifer Steingass pattern, one of her most recent ones. Very Jennifer Steingass in yoke, very, very, very much. It has the almost signature rolled collar, rolled hem. I added a slight bell sleeve to it, that's the only thing I adjusted. And yeah, I'm really happy with this, how this came out. This was using La Bien-Aimé's Peach Mignon, I believe, on her DK base, and the dark green is Moss-ish. I say ish because I think it was a questionable version by Ching Fibre on their super soft DK base. This has got a little bit more wear than I had anticipated. I wasn't sure on the colour, but I actually weirdly think the colour suits me. So it has seen a bit of wear. It's quite soft, incredibly soft in fact, which I'm not adverse to anything that's not really soft, but this is quite nice on a summer evening when you don't necessarily want mohair on your skin. Yeah, very simple test knit. I've knitted one Jennifer Steingass pattern previously, and I have a couple more in my library that I would enjoy doing, and this is not anything negative, but like I said, I'm really hoping to keep learning techniques and skills, and if I need a new jumper for any reason and want a colourwork yoke, I will go back to these patterns, but for the time being they're going to sit there because I don't feel like I'm learning, and that's okay. If you are after this sort of pattern, these patterns are definitely the way to go. They have a very, Jennifer has a very obvious style. I have the Humulus in my library, which is not too dissimilar, and if that's what you're after, amazing. Very clearly written, very simple to follow. Jennifer does a very cool lifted increase, which is almost invisible, which again, fantastic. But yeah, simple, beautiful, very happy with it, more happy than I had anticipated. And as always, Jennifer, I say as always, it was the first test knit I did for Jennifer, but she was very easy to get in touch with and give feedback. She was fantastic. Yeah, wonderful designer, great test knit. Well, I did a few more Amy Appel of Poison Girl knits patterns than I thought. I did quite a few of them. This yarn was particularly special because I purchased it while I was in Amsterdam. I went to Amsterdam to see the Twilight Sad, which are one of my favourite bands of all time, which might be the furthest I've ever gone to see a band. I think I saw them in 4 countries last year. Anyway, I purchased this at Stephen West's lovely shop, and this is the colour Way Golden by Favo. Don't want to say that wrong, but I probably have, on her merino swirl base, which is gorgeous. And the colour is exclusive, or was, I'm not sure if it still is. And it's not going to show. Yes, it is, yeah. So it is a really gorgeous colour, and I really like the base. It's very springy. And this is the Beauty School jumper by Amy Appel. And again, this is quite a simple one, not too wildly dissimilar, apart from no keyhole, from the Judy Lodge sweater. It is different. It's definitely different. It's written fingering weight, and it has a slightly different shape. It's definitely different. It's not as high up in the neck, etc. But again, I won't talk too much about Amy's pattern writing, but it is fantastic. There's options for decreases, no decreases. It's a good, very good basic pattern. If you're the sort of person that quite likes high-waisted items or wears a lot of dresses that sit sort of on the waist and poof out, this is a great item for that, I think, personally. Very easy to follow, beautifully shaped, a very nice pattern. I really don't have too much to say on this because it is very similar, but if you need fingering weight patterns and want something very classic and very easy to wear, this is a great pattern. This one. This was knitted for a very special to me occasion, and it was knitted for my wedding. I actually ended up knitting one top / jumper that I haven't got here because like I tend to keep t-shirts and top style garments out of these videos because they're not technically jumpers or cardigans to me. And then I re-knitted one last minute, which I should talk about if I haven't already, probably have. And this was, I was sure that I was going to wear this, and I did wear it. This is the Wrap Me Up cardigan by Plum Mum. Hopefully you can see it. I will obviously be putting in footage. And I knit it using a really gorgeous colour. This is Sage Green by Drops on their mohair base. And as far as affordable mohair goes, this is the best quality, most affordable one I have come across, and I use it quite a bit. I would love to transition to only using high quality mohair, but definitely this year, especially, I really cannot afford to be spending a fortune. But I do really hope to transition to a better quality mohair. Anyway, this cardigan, if you are used to more, I want to say Norwegian style pattern writing, this will be very straightforward for you. This, for me, wasn't impossible or like a real challenge, but it was a bit. I found that what I had to do is note down the key points in the paragraph of writing and read further ahead and make shorthand notes of what I was meant to be doing, because it's really not difficult, but it's just worded in a way that, I don't know, it was just a little bit iffy to me, and it is what it is. It's fine, but if you are very new, maybe ask for support on this one from a friend. Our Discord knitting group is fantastic for that. I will be there, or send me a message if you want any guidance at all. But I knit the smallest size. You hold mohair triple, which makes a really lovely fabric, but on very big needles, so it's warm, but still got quite a nice sort of drape to it almost. I really like this item. What I did have to do is, even though I knitted the smallest size and I felt like I was getting gauge, maybe I didn't in the end, maybe it was a little bit looser. I do really like the fit, but what I have done is added elastic, which I think she notes in the pattern, in at the waist. I really had to do some real, like, it is really a lot narrower. Like, I've pulled it in a lot, so it is a very short piece of elastic to get it the way that I wanted it. But I also added them at the sleeve, and this has made such a difference. It is way more wearable for me. It doesn't, you know, fall down, which I didn't really want on our wedding day, or in general. And I can now use this if I am washing up. I don't always wash up in mohair, but I can pull my sleeves up and be quite sure that they're not going to fall down. But it is a gorgeous pattern. It's a really lovely piece to have. I didn't do the pet plum. It has an option to do a pet plum end. I didn't need to, as you can see. It's already got so much volume that I didn't need in the garment in the first place, so it has essentially done that anyway. But it would be very cute to do a version with a pet plum. I'm not sure that I will knit this again, like I said, until I need a new version of this. If I need a new version of this, I really love it. It goes with almost all of my wardrobe. I mean, this is a colour that I will get a lot of use from, and I'm so pleased that I did it. I was quite hesitant at the beginning when I first saw it, but it's definitely one that I'm so grateful that I persevered with. Right, nearly there. We have 2 more left. This is the 3rd time I knit this pattern. I knit this just because I wanted to knit something simple, and I don't know, I find raglan jumpers a nice relaxing knit, especially if they're simple, and the Turtledove is that. If you're looking for a first garment, the Turtledove is a great way to go. It's a slightly bigger gauge, so it knits up quite quickly, considering how much ease there is in it. That's my personal opinion anyway. Utilising tally charts to remember where you are in the pattern means that you can knit this at a knit night, you can knit it while you're on a train, if you're on a train ever again, who knows. You know, it's a very nicely written pattern, it's very easy to work. So I cast one on, and this is yarn. Suri is something that I just don't really love, if I'm honest. So this again might be a piece that I gift. I did knit this to replace a garment that I already had, and I'm a bit sad that I gave it away, but hopefully it's getting some use with its new owner. And it just doesn't quite do the job, and that's not because the pattern isn't beautiful, because it is done in black. Maybe I could just over dye it and maybe I'll wear it a bit more. This is Sea Breeze and another anonymous colour by Ching Fibre, but I don't know, I find that it leaks all the time. Anything that I wear this with is covered in fibre forever. I don't know, mohair doesn't seem to do that for me. That might just be me, but I don't know, it grows out of shape quite easily. I'm just not a lover. I don't enjoy knitting with it. I don't know why I cast it on in hindsight, but I just wanted to get more yarn out of my stash, and I think what I'm going to do is do a de-stash of Suri and some of my other things that I just don't truly love, and I think that's really important when you're knitting, is to knit things you truly love. And again, just to reiterate, the Turtledove pattern is wonderful and I highly recommend it. Again, as a first knit, as a prolific knitter that wants a very classy garment that they can wear forever, maybe don't do it in this yarn, that's all. I would really, like I said, like a black version or a dark grey version that I can wear all the time. I did the smallest size. I did go off pieced in that I didn't do it nearly as long as I needed to because I'm so short, and I didn't do the sleeves quite as long because I wanted to be able to roll them up, because I saw it as like an evening knit that I could wear over pyjamas when I was sitting on the sofa. But anyway, if you're after a Surrey jumper that I've really sold, speak to me. Give me a message maybe. So speaking of things that you knit with pure joy and gratitude, this is a piece that I only recently spoke about, but I have to talk about it again because of the nature of this video, and I'm not mad. I'm quite excited. If you didn't see the last video, that's fine, because I'm going to explain. My amazing knitting group gifted me a box as a congratulations, you got married. Inside it was the fingering weight yarn that I've used here, which I believe is Driftwood Graffiti by La Bien-Aimée, and the orange is Rust by La Bien-Aimée, and the mohair was the Rust colourway by La Bien-Aimée mohair. So I love this. This was all the yarn was a gift. It's like Alex and my knitting family are giving me a hug each time I wear it. It was an improvised garment, and I did it in the way that I did it because I really wanted to ensure that I had enough length in the garment for it to be an autumn piece, because if this doesn't scream autumn, I don't know what does. I improvised a little bit of colour work on the bottom and on the sleeves, and I left it with rolled hems. I really recommend being playful in improvising garments if you feel confident, even if you don't. Like, stepping outside of our comfort zone's the best way we can possibly learn. I knew that I would not be upset if I had to rip this back 10 times, even though you don't really want to be doing that with mohair or ever, but I would be happy to keep knitting it if I decided at some point down the line, oh, it would have been a perfect oversized t-shirt, I can rip it back. I mean, I'm not going to now. I love this garment, but yeah, I don't know. I really am happy with this, and I think this was just another reminder that knitting what we love is so much better than knitting what is okay. Yeah, which is a reason that I've ripped out, in the last year I've ripped out many more projects than I could have anticipated, and it's not because I didn't love them at the start. It was that I loved the idea of them at the start and then knew that they wouldn't be right at the end, or I wasn't enjoying the process. There's no point, especially when it might mean that we're using less yarn, but it's yarn that we truly love, and I think that's going forward, that's one of the things I'm going to try to do. Anyway, I really hope this was useful and maybe a bit inspiring. Do get in touch if you have any questions on any of these. I do know that my Ravelry notes, though, I do them, and I'm starting to be a bit better with it. If there's anything I've missed and that you'd like to know, feel free to send me a message and ask, or pop it down there. I'm much better these days at getting back, either the same day or if not the next day. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I hope I've inspired you a little bit. I hope you take a little bit of time to maybe reflect on your own knitting, what you would like to do going forward, and if you have any knitting goals, pop them down there. Like, I'd love to see what you're inspired to do, and if there's any way that I can help motivate you or help you on your journey, then yeah, please let me know. It has been a real blessing to chat with you, and I hope to see you again very soon.